High Vibe Nation is live. Welcome to the High Vibe Nation, where we have set out to raise the vibration of every human being on the planet. Your hosts on this journey are Sherry Gideons, so let's join them now in their current interview with a high-vibing individual.
Hello and welcome to High Vibe Nation, the #1 positive media show focused on raising the vibe of the planet, a space for you to remember the power within you. It's a love revolution. I'm your host, Sherry Gideons. Well, today we have an amazing guest. Her name is AmyLee Westervelt, who is a dream design coach and mindset expert who works predominantly with sensitive and emotionally intelligent entrepreneurs. Through her signature programs and coaching, she has assisted in the transformation of thousands of business owners from anxious and unaware to empowered and abundant. Her unique law of attraction-centric approach marries gratitude and personal value. She strives to leave her clients with an affinity for the inner things in life and a deep belief in the worthiness of experiences. Welcome, AmyLee.
Hi, Sherry. I'm so glad to be here.
Awesome. So happy to have you. So the one question I always ask my guests is, what does it mean to be high vibe to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, high vibe means operating at your optimal capacity. So I have this saying that only when we're at our highest vibration, taking optimal care of ourselves, do we do our greatest good in the world. So for me, high vibe means that all of my needs are met, that I am in the optimal state for creating abundance and light work and anything else that I'm trying to create in my life and in the life of my clients and in the life of my family. So that's what high vibe means to me.
Woohoo! Woo, woo. I love that, girlfriend. And that's why we are friends, because we're definitely in vibrational alignment. And so that's pretty special when we get to come together and share those truths and those tips to other people. So start out by telling, our audience about how you got involved in the field of being a dream design coach. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So my story goes like this. I was an Army wife living in Alaska. My husband was stationed there. It was -65 degrees. I had 2 small children under 3. I was pregnant with my 3rd. My husband was about to deploy to Korea. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for. And my husband and I, we're best friends. We love each other. You know my husband, you love him too. And he's just my best friend in the whole world. And I just wasn't ready to have this life of being 2 ships passing in the night. To me, it just seemed like there was more. So I went in search of more, and I ended up finding Bob Proctor's hokey 80s seminar, You Were Born Rich, which we watched. And one of the things he said was, what do you really want? And when I thought about it, I didn't really know. I knew that I wanted more, but I didn't know what more was. And so I set out on a quest to find out for myself what more looked like. And I realized that 2 things were happening. 1, I felt like I didn't really deserve more. And 2, I felt too overwhelmed to even think about what more was. So I had to create a process where I could slow way down and really dig into what it was I was trying to create. And once I did that, I realized there were fundamental steps to that, which I've now coined my dream design blueprint. And through the blueprint, we're able to just chunk down and take step by step what those pieces are to figure out what it is that we truly desire. And so when I started coaching, I started coaching just on the law of attraction. And then I was like, well, I want to coach empaths and highly sensitives because that's what I am. And then I was like, I don't want to just coach empaths and highly sensitives on being empaths and highly sensitives. I want them to understand that they deserve to have the life of their dreams. And that's when it came back. All of it came flooding back. These are people who don't feel like they deserve things and they're too overwhelmed to design them. So I created a program. I named it Dream Design, and my program is designed to help people who don't necessarily have the bandwidth in this moment to find out what they really want, to understand the significance of knowing what they want for the people around them as much as for themselves, and how to create that so that they can have that abundance and manifest the life and business of their dreams.
I love this topic because for those of our audience who do not know what highly sensitives are and empaths, let's break that down for a second, just so that we can bring that to the broader audience, because maybe some of them are that and they don't even know it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that I like to define highly sensitives and empaths is if you imagine that you have an energetic, I love you too, Lynn, is that if you imagine that you have an energetic force field around you and it extends further than your own body. When you're an empath, you can feel somebody's energy field when it gets within a certain range of you, and different empaths have different energy field sensitivities, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a person who you work with someone and they come into work and you say, hey, Sherry, and she says, hey, and you immediately think that's your fault or that she's mad at you or that you did something, and it doesn't even occur to you that maybe she just got up on the wrong side of the bed, you can be an empath. If you walk into a room and all of a sudden you can feel anger, but you don't know where it's coming from because there's 200 people, you might be an empath. So it's not necessarily, it is a superpower and it isn't. It's a magnification of what most people can feel. And like I said, depending on how much you hone it and how much you really listen to it is how effective it can be for you. And that's one of the things that I really work on, is showing people, hey, these are superpowers that you have, and let's configure your energy this way so that this stuff works better for you going forward.
And that's so important, awareness of that, because I can say for myself as a young woman, young girl even, I was very, very sensitive to people. They could enter the room. I could feel their feelings. I could, really be able to tell where they're at in themselves. And if they were sad or mad or whatever it was, I knew. And it would really drag me down because at that time, I didn't know how to detach from that kind of energy. I just took it on. And if they were sad, suddenly I was sad. And it would it was like a whole Debbie Downer. And so as I went forward in my own life and I became more and more aware of how that is a superpower and how I can use it actually to serve me and to help serve other people in a way that, changed them and shift them. It made all the difference in the world.
And I think also, something that we could go into for hours, but one of the reasons people become highly sensitive is that they have emotional abuse in their past. And there's actually someone or something or some entity, hi Larry, there's some entity that is actually there conditioning them to ignore the intuition, to tell them that they're crazy, to tell them that they don't really feel all the things they feel. We call that gaslighting, right? It's kind of an Olympic sport at this day and age. And so that's another factor of it for empaths, is that we don't necessarily know that we have this because there are people that's job is to make sure we don't find out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to that old programming and that old, we come into this world and, we have parents and we take on their beliefs and their ways of being. And then we enter into, society or the school system. And then we become friends with kids and they have their own set of beliefs and thoughts. And then we're integrating them all together. And we take this on and own it. And we don't recognize how we're setting the stage for what's showing up in our lives. And so working with people, when you very first get started working with people, what are the biggest mistakes that people, come to you with that they've made in life? And how do you help them change those mistakes or move through those mistakes and limiting beliefs?
So I think the biggest one is that people chase dreams that aren't theirs. And we see this a lot when people are trying to climb the corporate ladder, but also the network marketing ladder. There's this idea that if I can just get to this next level, I'll be happy. If I can just get to this level, I'll be happy. And what they don't realize is that that thing is never going to make them happy. That thing isn't necessarily what it is that's going to make them happy. So for example, in my network marketing career, the owner of our company would be like, if you do X, Y, Z, you're going to get to come to California with me and go shopping in all the fancy stores. Well, that didn't appeal to me. So even though that was what I was working toward, that didn't fulfill me in any way. And when it finally came time to do that, I was like, can we just go back to the hotel? So I didn't have that payoff that I wanted to have. And
Right.
so I think that's the biggest thing, is that people chase somebody else's dreams. We think that, I had a client not too long ago, she's an engineer, but she doesn't want to be an engineer. That's what her family wanted her to be. And she wants to stay home and be a mom. And she wants all, that juicy feelings of she's creating a small business. She wants all that. And that dissonance between what we think we're supposed to want and what we actually want, those things go head to head all day long. And the universe kind of goes, whoa, which way, what are you trying to manifest here? And so we have to get really concrete on the feelings we want to create, and then we work backwards from there.
I love that, because I think that even when I work with my own clients, I mean, the biggest struggle with people is you ask them, do you know what you want? And they're going to say, no, I don't know what I want, and then you go in through this process, and it's just filtered with so many limiting beliefs, and, the not good enoughs, the not worthies, the not deservings, but not even that. It's just like, they just don't want to even find out sometimes. How do you help people to get started? I love the idea of dream design coach. I mean, just saying that seems so fun. It's like going to Walt Disney World to Disneyland, Dream.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it has a fun element to it for sure, but there's also some work that goes into it as well. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of really stretching your brain, because again, it's like, I like to think of your ego as like Rapunzel's mom in the tower, right? It's like she's got cable, she's got all the snacks, but she's not allowed to go out and actually experience the world. Not because her mom's a jerk, except for in the Disney one, she is kind of a jerk. But in the Grimm's fairy tale, she just wants to keep her safe. And that's what your ego does. So when you're like, I want to just go think about what this is going to be like when I get my dream, and your ego's like, no, don't even think about it. Just get back on the couch, eat the bonbons, watch Netflix, and chill. You know what I mean? And so my job is to be like, hold on a second, ego, go over there. Good, go play. Okay, now let's go over here and let's plan this. Because what we're going to do is we're going to talk to your ego. We're going to tell your ego, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. I understand you're trying to protect me. And just making that shift between thinking that you're this jerk who's holding yourself back, and then looking at it from like, you've got a really big helicopter grandmother built into your body. What a difference that shift is. It's not that I am not doing what I'm supposed to do and I'll never get out of my own way and I'm this. It's, wow, somebody inside of me loves me so much that they're risking, my growth to keep me safe. And what a loving place to come from, as opposed to, feeling like somebody's trying to sabotage everything you're doing. I hate when people say that they self-sabotage, because they're not. They're trying to keep themselves safe. It's an evolutionary instinct. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the biggest thing, is just having them come in and say, okay, well, what do you want? And so we go through the dream design blueprint, which I do on calls. If anybody ever wants to jump on a call and just go through their blueprint, happy to do that. But basically that's what we have to figure out. We've got to figure out, okay, what will it look like when? What are the tangible outcomes that are going to show you that this happened? Because people just don't go there. Mm-hmm. They just don't go there. It's like muscle groups that you don't use until you do certain exercises, right? You're like, the inside of my elbow hurts, Well, yeah, because you're using it on this weird exercise that you've never done it. Well, it's the same thing with your subconscious. We get in and we start using muscles in your creative space that you've never used before. And now all of a sudden your brain's going, what? We can access this, we can change this. And then your reticular activating system's going, oh, that you want that? Well, crap, there's one of those right around the corner and it's free. People think that it's about money. It's not about money. It's about knowing what you want, getting laser focused on it, and creating it in your existence. End rant.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, I love where you're going with this, because even for myself on my own path, my journey was about letting go of the idea that abundance was money. And the whole concept of abundance only being green dollars. And the more that I started to align with the feeling of abundance, if you really, really look at it, it's everywhere. If you walk outside and you've got air and you can breathe the air that's abundant, you can see trees everywhere and the birds everywhere and people everywhere. And so abundance, when you start to change your idea and your connection with abundance being only money, what happens is you begin to pull into your environment everything that's aligned with abundance. So now when you talk about your reticular activating system, abundance is showing up in every form. And so let's talk about, the reticular activator system for those of people who don't know how that works in your brain, and how once you really get clear and specific about what you want, it literally begins to have it show up in what I like to call the field of possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I love that we're like connected on this, because we can like bounce back and forth, and everything that I say, and the things that you talk about, like I'm familiar with. So it's like such a great place to be. Sure. But essentially with the reticular activating system, we also call it the RAS. If you imagine, like if you've ever gone car shopping and you decide that you want to get, say, like a Jeep Cherokee, what's going to happen is that you're going to see Jeep Cherokees everywhere because you've told your brain to look for them. Hi, Laura. Hi, Sheena. Those are my girls.
Yeah, we love them.
We love them. And so, so you're telling it to look for those things. Well, at any given time, your brain is taking in so much information. I mean, the colors, the shapes, the sizes, the sounds, there's so much that's coming in, and it has to filter those things. And so when you tell it what you want it to filter it down to this finite amount that you can look at, I think it's according to NLP, I think it's 126 bits of information. Mm-hmm. You get to curate those 126 bits, and that's what you're going to see. The problem is people say things like, I want a nice house, I want a nice car. Oh, hi, Joe.
No. Our good friend.
We're like Joe's Charlie's Angels. We're like, Joe needs us. Where do we need to go? And so, you create this space where you're now curating what you want to see. And what happens is that you're actually creating your experience in real time, because you're saying, I want this, and I want this, and can you please show me this? It's like when you go to a fancy restaurant and you pick your courses ahead of time. They give you this big long menu and you go, yep, I'm going to have this, this, this. You don't order them as the meal goes on. You order it all at once. And then what happens? You expect them to bring what you ordered. Well, guess what? The freaking universe works the same way. That's what your reticular activating system does. But when you say, oh, I want a nice car, I want a good husband, the universe goes, well, what the heck does that mean? Because it's different for everybody. Right. And how do I turn good and nice into 126 particles of information? I can't. So I'm just going to guess, and I'm going to kind of give you whatever's out there.
Yeah, that is so, so powerful. And I think that it comes down to when we start to lighten up on ourselves and we really start to be more in tune with what feels good in today. So the clearer we get about all those things, like you're talking about, I'm visual. So if I see a picture, oh my goodness, I literally can activate that in my imagination. And then I can actually go in and see how it all works together, and I conjure up that feeling, and then I start to milk that feeling. And then what's really happening, because I understand the laws of the universe, what happens is I begin to expect it and just know that it's going to show up in my environment. And I'm just patient, allowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. And for a long time, I thought I wasn't visual, because when people would talk about seeing pictures, I would see words, but a word is still a picture of a word. So if someone said tree, I would think tree, and I'd say TREE, and that's how the picture showed up for me.
Right.
And so I thought that I wasn't visual, but it's still visual. It's just a weird visual.
Yeah. So and using those pictures, like what you're talking about, let's talk a little bit about the laws of the universe and how we set up these illusions that appear and show up as experience. And we take them on as being real, and we own them and give them power without even being aware of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I first discovered the 11 irrefutable laws, I was like, wait, there's more. Like, there's the secret, and there's the law of attraction, but there's the law of compensation. There's the law of receiving. There's the law of forgiveness. There's all these other delicious things that all work in tandem with the law of attraction. The law of attraction is the law of love, and that's great, but there's so many other factors. And when, even if you just pick one off a week, like if you just make like we should do that. We should do like an 11-week like workshop where we like do a lot each week between our two groups and like bring people together. That would be so cool.
Oh my God, that would be really cool, because that's really what I talk a lot about, just like yourself, is how, we have what's called the law of vibration. And the law of vibration is really the biggest law. And if we can understand the law of vibration, all these other laws, like you just mentioned, the 11 universal laws, like compensation, law of assumption, law of giving and receiving, law of attraction, then we can begin to direct things to show up. Because remember, this universe is infinite, and we are the ones that are analyzing and rationalizing and scrutinizing the how. And I really want you to talk about how you go through that process with your clients. Because, let's face it. A lot of us have gone through trauma, and we've gone through different phases of abuse, or even just our own personal abuse. And we struggle with breaking free of that illusion that's self-created. How do you help your clients realize it's their own illusion, and then begin to get clear about what they want, and then you go through a process with them?
Well, I think one of the things, and I know you do this too, it's all about attraction marketing. It's about showing up as the person that they want to be. And so you can't very well mentor someone to create wholeness in them if you're not trying to create wholeness in yourself. So I'm always striving to get myself to that higher level. And that's why, some of the conversations you and I have had offline, I'm like, hey, Sherry, I feel this weird way. How can I fix it? And I'm very receptive. Right? I'm very receptive to the idea that I can always get better. Well, when somebody sees that, and we talk about, people talk about this a lot in religion, right? Like walking, doing the walk. Well, it's the same exact thing. So when you're creating that space for yourself, people see that. And people have been messaging me, in the last probably 6 weeks or something, like, something in you has changed. You're so different. You just seem like you're glowing. And it's because in 2021, I said, you know what? Magnetize is my word. And I am going to do the work of taking responsibility for the transformation that I create for my clients. I'm not going to disassociate anymore. I'm not going to make it about, oh yeah, that happened and I happened to be there. I'm going to actively dig my heels in and say, I was part of that. And in doing that, that has created, like a chain reaction with them and with myself, that now all of a sudden people are like, hold on, what's going on with her? Whatever she's doing, I want whatever she's having. And that is the power of attraction marketing. And then once that happens, when you get someone where they're like, okay, I see that happening and I want to create that for myself, that's that catalyst where you can go in and go, okay, we're doing the heavy lifting then, we're doing the hard work. And then you've got them. And then you start working through that process. But first, there has to be that expectation. We've got to fix all this junk first. I can help you manifest till the cows come home, but it's not going to stick, right? It's going to slide back down the wall. So if you want that to hold, then we've got to do the heavy lifting underneath. And people have to help me do that, right? Like, I have mentors. You saw Joe up here. And Sherry's one of my mentors as well. And they're people that I have to come to. Hi, Mo.
Hi, Mo. Hi, Mo. Glad to have you.
And Mo's another one. He's younger than me and he's a mentor of mine. So, we're all co-creating that higher consciousness, and it takes all of us. There are pieces, that you need from me. There are like we talked about, our human design is like the perfect woman, right? Like, you're the top half and I'm the bottom half. And when you click it together, it's like, there you go, guys, clone us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so true. And I think the gift is as you seek inside yourself and you realize, and it's sad to say that, as human beings, so many of us have to go through the contrast and what I like to call polarity and duality. And we get to that point in ourselves where we're like, okay, I'm starting to repeat things over and over and over. We start to ask, why is this always happening to me? And I'm a believer that the quality of questions you ask yourself determines the quality of life you live. And so when we begin to ask those questions, whether we're conscious of it or unconscious of it, the right people, or we go into a grocery store and something in the grocery store we read at that moment that gives us the answer, or we're driving down the road and a street sign says to us, you do you.
I pulled for you yesterday.
Yes.
I need to pull a card for you. And then that whole crazy thing happened.
And that's the story of my life. I mean, what the card you pulled yesterday, the story of my life has been about me being me playing full out in me, not worrying about what people think, but being the sweet, kind me that truly is here to help other people awaken to, the power that they are. And I love that you and I have come together in that whole dream builder, dream design aspect, because the field of possibilities is available to all of us. And so when people show up in our environment, we have an opportunity to share what's coming through us with them. And then hopefully that seed's been planted that, helps them to kind of begin asking the next question or reaching out to us,
And absolutely. And what I've learned from that experience is that when that happens, it's not, we can't disassociate ourselves from that transformation.
Yeah.
We've got to acknowledge that we've been chosen by the universe that employs us on this planet, right? We work for the universe. We have to understand that that is what we're supposed to do. And we're supposed to take ownership of that, right? So
I had to post that for Mo. He's using the Mojo binoculars today.
Oh my goodness. Too funny. And so, so we have to be able to acknowledge that we've been part of that transformation, right? And so, because if we don't, then the universe thinks that we don't want to be part of that transformation, which is our whole purpose for being here. So my role in this has been to say, AmyLee, don't back off and say, oh, you did that all by yourself. It's like, I was part of that. And that's what you've been for me is, just kind of reminding me like, hey, you got to kind of put your stamp on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, that's one of the conversations I love having all the time is, we, as human beings, we get into that realm of comparing and competing. And we're like, okay, there's so many people out here in the world doing similar things as myself, but how do I stand out? How am I different? How am I unique? And the realization is really to understand that it's all energy. It's all vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if somebody else is doing something similar to you. They can't do it like you.
No. And that's why whenever people get all, bent out of shape about so-and-so stole my stuff and so-and-so's copying me. And I'm like, but so-and-so's not you. And so-and-so will never resonate with people the way you do. Mm-hmm. Like they're just like, there's a difference. Everybody has their own people. And it's like, I bring, experts into my Facebook group all the time. Take them, go ahead, go join their groups, go be their client. Good. You're getting the help you need. That's my job. My job that the universe said is, hey, AmyLee, create more healing and create more wholeness on the planet. It didn't say, and make sure all of it is 100% you. Mm-hmm. It just said to facilitate it. And I can do that all day long, and you do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the ways that I do it is I really start out by helping people. I call it connecting the influences. Mm-hmm. And on the left-hand side, I have them get out a piece of paper. On the left-hand side, I have them write, all the people they can remember in their lives. And then on the right side of the paper, I have them write certain habits, certain traits about themselves. Mm-hmm. And then I have them draw a line to the people that they can remember, that came out onto the paper, even if it was like the spotted dog or what have you, and then connect the influences so that they can be more aware of how these habits and how these ways of being, set the stage for what's happening in their life now, and how they keep going back to those particular influences or, struggles and keep pulling it into the now moments. And so how do you help people get out of the box and into their purpose?
Well, so I have what's called my dream design blueprint. And so the first thing that I figured out is that everything that you're trying to create in your life is really about a feeling. That's all you really want. You want feelings. If someone could just hand you feelings, you wouldn't need all the things. An example of this is like guys, like there's lots of guys watching, right? Like, so why do you want a Maserati? You want a Maserati because they're fast, right? They're fun. They're fun because of the way that people will look at you when you pull up to the valet and you drop the keys to the valet attendant. It's all about a feeling. If I was to say to you, hey, I've got a little bottle and I'm going to give you all the feelings of having the Maserati, but you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to upkeep it. And everybody's still going to feel like you have one. Do you need the Maserati? No. Same thing with a handbag, right? The same thing with ladies and handbags. So you can go to Walmart and you can buy a handbag that's still going to hold all your stuff, but it's not a Louis or it's not a Chanel. And so people aren't going to, think whatever. It's why people buy knockoffs, because they don't really want the brand. They want the feeling of having the brand. So the key is to figure out what people want to feel. And at first they're like, I don't know. And then you start to think, well, what's a really good memory you have? Because everybody's got some kind of good memory, right? And so if the person who wants to, create more money, then they say to you, well, I really want to have $10,000, but I've never had that. I don't know what that feels like. And you say, well, you're right, but you have had a tax return and you have found a 20 in your pocket. It's the same feeling. The universe doesn't know the difference. You're the one who attaches the meaning, but the feeling's the same. You just turn it up. So then how do you take that feeling of I found 20 bucks in my pocket and turn it into I found $10,000 in my pocket? It's the exact same thing. And so the biggest thing is showing people that they have that ability. And we do that by living that life ourselves. Because when I tell people, like I started on your show, I was a penniless army wife. We were shopping for our kids. My husband has 5 children from a previous marriage that were little at the time. And we had 2 little kids and we had one on the way. We were shopping for toys at the dollar store. Yeah. And that's where we came from. And look where we are now. And it's not because I'm better. It's not because I'm smarter. It's not because I had better experiences or better breaks. It's because I decided. Because I figured out what I wanted and I created it. I wanted a house with a movie theater. We have a movie theater in my house. I wanted hanging pots and pans. My kitchen has hanging pots and pans. I wanted a large family. Bam, we have a large family. Anything that you can create in your mind, you can create in real life, but you've got to put in the work. You've got to figure out what are the feelings? What are the thoughts and affirmations I want to have? And then what will be those tangible outcomes that will show me that those other 2 things exist? When you do that work and then you put that into your timeline, it's not will it work? It's do you believe that it does work? Because that's the difference.
I love that you brought up the idea of belief, because that's one of the things I talk about all the time. Whatever you believe, it's your truth. It's true to you. It's just like me creating an exercise program. And I'm telling you, if you do 60 seconds of an all-out exercise and repay the debt with 60 seconds of deep breathing a specific way, you're going to actually get 2 to 3 times the results of an exercise program you go into and you work out 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, what have you. And if that's your truth, and you don't believe it's going to happen, then your body takes it on and says, okay, I'm the servant, and the captain is saying that exercise has to be hard, so you're not going to get any benefits or results. But then if you shift that and you say, wait a minute here, I'm going to do an all-out exercise for 30 to 60 seconds, and I'm going to get 2 to 3 times the results. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, that's how it works is our body takes on, our cells take on what we tell it. So what usually happens is the cells, they have been the captain instead. And so as a result of it, we've been getting dis-ease in the body, struggle, extra weight, because that's what we believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've had 5 children, like out of my own body. And I am probably 5 pounds heavier than I was when I had my first child. Why? Because I don't gain weight. I made that decision. I can eat whatever I want and I don't gain weight. Now, does that mean that I get nutrition out of it? Maybe not. But I don't make that connection between those 2 things. And so that doesn't happen to me. And I don't ever worry about it.
Robert's a good friend of ours, and if you haven't met Robert before, AmyLee, this is Robert Brooker. He is an amazing friend and just a great support. So,
nice to meet you, Robert. Thanks for coming out for my High Vibe Nation debut.
Yes, AmyLee is a fellow dream coach, and she is just amazing. She calls herself Dream Design Coach. And she really just teaches all about manifesting, how to really create that life you were born to live, that we were all born to live. And she's got a free gift that we have going across the screen here. Make sure that you get her gift. Now, what is this gift? Tell us a little bit about this gift, AmyLee.
Yeah, so this is my dream design archetype assessment. And so what it is, it's 4 different scripts that you look at, and it takes you through a scripting exercise, a day in the life of 4 different identities. And so you read each one and you kind of get a feel for which one you like the best. And of course, none of them are going to be perfect because they're not customized. We can do that. And then so when you look at that and you decide which one, there's a little chart underneath that has action items you can do right now or start with to move into alignment with that identity.
I love that. And gosh, that's awesome. And tell us a little bit about your group. You have an amazing group on Facebook that people can be part of.
Yes, it's called Dream Building Entrepreneurs, and it is for entrepreneurs, so business owners and small business owners and people looking to start a business, just anyone with an entrepreneur spirit. Who is highly sensitive or empathic or even intuitive, people that feel. It is for them. And we talk about designing your dreams without guilt or overwhelm. So, and Sherry's a member and she's awesome. She's going to be on my show soon. I don't know what, I think it's March 3rd, I think it is.
Something like that. Yeah. Yep. No, I love this conversation. And more than anything, I love how we're just giving tips and tools to people to really be more mindful, be more aware at how they're setting themselves up for so much of the challenge and the struggle and even the fear. I mean, because, let's use COVID as an example. I think that's been a tremendous opportunity for people to come back inside and rest within themselves, create that self-care, to be more aware of how they're creating this fear and the struggle in themselves. And then, look at what's happening on Facebook and now the new Clubhouse. People have a voice to connect with other people. And isn't that what it's about? It's about understanding more about connection.
It is. And it's also about tuning into your higher consciousness. And I think what Clubhouse has done, it's kind of pushed our higher consciousnesses out of hiding. And so when we're on Clubhouse, especially in the groups that you and I hang out in, that a lot of these folks are in, it's our higher consciousness that are coming together and having these conversations. And so it's like really cool that we're like sending our avatars, our higher self avatars out into the world to do this work, even at this time when we can't connect. Our brains and our collective consciousness and our unity consciousness are still converging together in the ether, and as you say, in the quantum field, to create wholeness and light work, even though we can't connect physically, which I think is otherworldly and phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, how do you deal with people when you're talking like this and they're like, that's woo-woo thinking and that's airy-fairy thinking? What do you say to people when they say that to you?
Well, I think you have to understand, and a lot of people have people in their lives, like their family, that feel this way. I like to think of it, and I think we got this from Ra, right? The law of one. I think that we talk about Earth being like a one-room schoolhouse. And we have this understanding that because someone's older than you, that they're smarter or that they're further along and so on and so forth. But they could very well be, a conscious being that's like a 3rd grader compared to your 7th grader. And we don't think of a 7th grader and a 3rd grader and put them next to each other and be like, wow, that 3rd grader's a jerk. It's just a different level of understanding. You know what I mean? So I like to think of it as they're just not there yet and it's not their time. And I don't have to judge them and say like, wow, like, you clearly don't know what's going on. I mean, do we have those moments, where like, oh, what an idiot. Like, absolutely. We all do. We're human. But being able to come back and just be like, that's okay. I mean, everybody has their ideal client and they have their ideal not client. And our job as coaches and as thought leaders is to repel the people that aren't ready for our message. We're supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. And so if we come in contact with those people who aren't in that vibration and they're repelled, high five, we're doing our job. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think so much of it has to do with you understanding your own energy field, you owning your own power, and being conscious of where you are in any moment, with your own energy, protecting your own energy. And so how do you teach people how to really protect their energy when you're working with them? Because obviously you're bringing more of the conversation up about everything is energy, everything is vibration. We're addressing feelings. That's a vibe. And the more power you give those feelings, they could go towards the contrast, what you don't want, or they can go in the opposite direction of what you do want. Where are you going to give more power to? So are you helping them protect their energy field and learn tools and tips around that?
Absolutely. But you got to go even before that, because remember, we're talking about a group of people who have been kind of battered and abused, and they don't necessarily feel like they deserve to protect their energy. So when we do the boundary work, we're talking about what your sovereignty is as a person and what you deserve, and how to make sense of that sovereignty around the confines of everybody else's beliefs of what you're allowed to protect. Yep. So we can't even talk about protecting it until we give people permission to protect it. And that's really where the conversation starts. Like, you're allowed to not respond. You're allowed to say, this isn't okay. So I actually go through in my Unstoppable Empath system, I actually go through and highlight the different kinds of relationships and the expectation of intimacy and sovereignty in those relationships, because some people just don't know that they're allowed to have boundaries. These are people that have been gaslit to the point where they feel like they're not allowed to exist unless it's for someone else's benefit. It's almost like emotional slavery, really.
Yes. Wow, girl. I mean, that's powerful. And, Robert's saying here, I've been reaching my sister much more effectively lately, but I think I'll be holding off sharing that when I fall asleep in my chair. He says, because angels wake him up in the morning, appearing as his family and friends with conversation. And, and let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about when we're surrendering to that part of ourselves. And we are, we are being given messages by angels. We are being given messages by our higher self. And the more we surrender to that and allow that, that just opens up a bigger doorway for us to, live our purpose and to be our infinite self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And understanding that you are part of God. And people are like, well, I'm not God. Well, right. But everything is God, source, higher self. So if that's all there is to create from, doesn't that mean that you have to be that because there's no other entity that exists? If God created everything, then everything is God. And like, people are like, no, but God is, I get that. Yes, absolutely. But you had to have come from there. And again, back to the law of one, right? Like, it starts with the whole, the explosion of, there's creation, and then creation separates, and then it goes through time. And what's it trying to do? It's trying to get back to wholeness. And so in the collective consciousness, in the continuum, we've already done that. Now, we don't consciously feel that because we're living our human selves, but our higher self knows that. And that's why our higher self is able to create these things for us in the future, because it knows they already came to be. Like, when I met my husband, I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a feeling in the continuum, our children are going to be playing together. Ironically, they were the same kids. Go figure. It's because we have, because I acknowledge that. And that's the biggest thing, guys. If you take nothing else away from this conversation, when you hear those little nudges, when you hear that intuition, feel into that, let it into the fold, bring it in and say, come on, sit down, let's have a chat. Because that's when you're going to get more of that. You're going to get it to open up to you more. When you tell it like, oh, I hate that I get these voices and I can't, and I don't know what's going on and it just feels icky to me, then it recedes and it goes into you and it's like, oh, she doesn't like me. He doesn't like me. He doesn't want to hear from me. Mm-hmm. And then you're shutting that off. So it's really important when we have these conversations, I can feel the energy of some people going, oh, they went there. This is weird. I can't follow. It's okay. You don't have to follow. Just acknowledge that you're listening, that it's sinking in. You might not get it right now. That's okay. And you might not believe it for the rest of your life. That's okay too. But somebody out there is going to hear this and go, I'm going to look more into that because they said the law of one twice. And I'm going to, incidentally, it's free to read, by the way, guys. So,
yeah. Well, and you know what? And that is so true. But what I've come, when we talk about people saying, oh, this is scary, and oh, that doesn't, that's blasphemy, or oh, this is not right. You hit the nail on the head. The truth is we are gods in bodies. And even Jesus said the same thing. Jesus said, ye are gods, and you will do what I have done and more. And when we come into this time that's happening right now, the Great Awakening, and we're opening up in ourselves and we're asking better quality questions, and we want to know what's our next step, then what happens is that the next person or the next opportunity or the next situation, I call it every avenue, opportunity, and expression for good and greater good. And so it's infinite. It's beyond what we can humanly rationalize. So when we get out of the way of the how and we begin to allow what we seek to show up in our now moments, then what happens is we begin to say, wait a minute here. Is that happenstance? Did that happen by
I created before I ever came, and I just don't know it.
And I just don't remember. And so, you can't deny that the world is beginning to understand that everything is energy. And now, in that little bit of the seed being planted, now people are hearing more and more about what you've been sharing, feelings. Feelings are a vibe. Just as you've been saying, we walk into the room, we can feel the vibes of the people in the room. If they're in a bad mood, if they're happy, if they're sad, if they're depressed, if they're angry, we can feel that. And at that, I call that our vibrational reader meter. It's basically saying, warning, warning, because it's letting us know what's in front of us. And so we come into the moment when we go back to every philosopher that's come to the planet. Their message has been, be in the now, live in the moment, be in the present. Because every present moment of today, it's delivering to you a match energy of what exists within yourself. And it's showing you, whether you're conscious of it or you're unconscious of it, what you're being from, what you're giving out, you're pulling back. And so, we can deny it all we want. We can keep, shuffling it over on the backside, not taking accountability and keep getting the same thing. Or we can finally say, okay, wait a minute, I'm a little bit receptive to this. I want to hear a little bit more. And you begin to start asking questions. And then people like you and I show up. And the beauty of that is, I can rant about this, because the beauty of it is, the gift of what it is that we're never alone. That all the right people, the right situations, whatever it is, good and bad, is showing up in the moment to deliver to us ourselves.
Yeah, I have a saying. It's like, you never see a cat skeleton in a tree, right? Like, even if it climbs up the tree, you never see it stuck up there. It comes down, right? Like, everything eventually resolves. And as my husband always says, everything is for good. Even the things that seem bad in the moment, we're all walking each other back home. That's really what it comes down to. And if we can remove that urgency, that crisis, that, oh my gosh, this, and just know that everything is going to work out for our greatest good, because that's what we ordained before we ever came to this planet and this human experience, we can save ourselves so much anxious energy and anxiety and, all these horrible things that we do to ourselves. You say it all the time. Nobody can hurt you. You can only hurt yourself. And so, we could avoid so much of that if we just kind of came around to that idea. And even if it's just a presupposition, right? Like, even if we don't necessarily believe it, but we acknowledge that we want to believe it, that's a downstream thought. That's going in the right direction. We're starting to acknowledge it.
Yep.
And it's like, would you rather presuppose this and have it be right or be wrong and you're out nothing? Or would you rather not, and then not have all the benefits of the presupposition?
Oh my God, so powerful. I could go on a rant in that whole direction myself, because and it's in that recognition of you're coming from that state of mind, from that state, that you can stop it right there. And, I love to say the simple question, what is it I really want? And when you go into that whole, let me speak it out loud. What is it I really want? I want to be in a moment with you, girlfriend, right here, right now, hanging out, talking about this topic, raising the vibration of the planet, even if people aren't ready to receive it yet. Because words are never forgotten. Words are energy. And so when I'm speaking about a topic that maybe some people aren't open and receptive to yet, they may remember my words in a couple weeks, a year, 2 years, because you're planting those seeds of energy and moving forward in your own life, playing full out and being yourself, doing you.
They might find comfort in those words in a trauma experience, that it just comes to them and their higher self pulls those words out to make them feel safe in a moment. You know, there are so many things that can happen from words that you don't even realize that you're taking in.
Well, and I love what you do in your group. I love how in your group you really start to break down specific topics, bite-sized pieces of topics, so that you're not just like bombarding people with, okay, here you are, you're the creator of your own reality and blah, blah, blah. But what you're doing is you're breaking it down in bite-sized topics. You're allowing people and helping them to receive the information, and then you're giving them tools and tips to practice those in their own lives.
And showing up as an inspiration for them to see what can happen when you follow that and what it could look like. And it's like, you know, I try really hard to be very generic about it, because if you think about it, like when you go to buy a house, they tell you to put all the stuff away, right? Like they don't want the pictures on the walls. I want people to be able to recognize themselves in the experience. So although I do tell my initial story, I try really hard not to beat them to death with all the amazing things that happen in my life, so much as I show up with a high vibration. I'll tell a story here and there to stay relevant and to stay part of the conversation, but I'm not out there to be an influencer. I'm not out there to have perfectly manicured pictures and say like, hey, this is my life. Isn't it so great? I'm more there to show an example of the energetic result of what happens when you truly live what you're teaching. And so that's kind of my mission.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that about you. You meet people right where they're at because you've had those experiences too. And so have I. I mean, the beauty of it is that we have walked through those shoes. We've lived, so many of the traumatic experiences that most of society goes through. But the difference is that we chose to reach up. We chose to step into a grander expression of ourselves. And we realize that we're no different than anybody else. Everybody else has the same thing that we have. But it comes down to a choice and a decision that, you know what, I deserve better. I'm worthy of more. And now I'm ready and I'm seeking, to surround myself with people who have, I like to call it ingredients to the recipe.
And to tie that all up into a bow, if, from what we started with, if you're not ready to do it from the perspective of, I deserve this, I'm worthy, I'm abundant, then going back to what I said and what you said at the very beginning about what is high vibe. Yeah. Your job is to be the best you can be for the people in your life. You wouldn't throw your kids in the car and drive them from New York to California in a car with, bald tires that needed an oil change. Well, you would, because it wouldn't be safe. Well, you shouldn't be out there not having enough water, not taking optimal care of yourself, not making sure that all of your spiritual needs are met, because then you can't be the best you for your children, for your spouse, for your coworkers, for your clients, for your dog, your goldfish, whatever it is that you care about in your life. You have to be your highest representation of yourself to do your greatest good. And so if you can't do it for yourself, and that's okay, because like I said, a lot of my clients can't, start there. Start with your job. Start with that contract you signed when you said, hey, universe, I'm on Team Universe. Start there and then move into that other stuff.
Oh, gosh, girl. Speak it, sister. Speak it. Heck yeah. Well, yeah, and it's just like, I love to hone back in on the moment, and it's just baby pockets of time. It's just like years ago when I used to personal train, I would, really help people to understand you set intentions in today to go on your health and wellness journey, your vitality journey. And you're eating what you're supposed to, you're doing what you exercise, and you go to the next hour and it's time to eat something, and you might mess up, you might make a mistake. Mm-hmm. But instead of saying, oh, I screwed up and I'm going to start again tomorrow, you say, well, wait a minute here. In another hour, I have an opportunity to continue to move forward in decisions of building better habits. And
1% is still an improvement. 1%. If you do things 1% better, it's better than no percent. And most people don't do it 1%. They usually do about 20, 30 when they're not trying, right? So 30% improvement over time, compounded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, I mean, it's going back to that whole building the feeling, building the meaning. I like to say that in today from the place that it's already so, because a lot of people are unaware as to how they keep pushing what they really want away from themselves. And the more we understand that you have to align and connect and feel from the place that is already true. So if it's the money, if it's the better body, whatever it is, how would that feel and look right now today, if today was all there is and that's who you were today, and you're building that bridge, through moving through the moments of today.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where scripting comes in. And that, again, back to my little opt-in fun thing is, pouring that into your day. And like, what does it look like when they talk about new level, new devil. I remember we were on with Forbes Riley one day and she's like, wait a second, are you telling me that most of your clients have private jets? And I was like, well, no. But what I'm saying is that you have to think of the problems you're going to have at your new level too, because you're going to be a whole human. It's not all going to be sunshine and roses. So if you really want to feel into an identity, you've got to feel into the fun stuff and the not so fun stuff, because you've got to really plop yourself down and say, oh gosh, what am I going to do when I have to choose between the charity auction or my best friend's birthday party on the yacht? Because they're both the same day.
Right.
Like you're going to have problems like that. And we're naive to think that we won't. So I think that it's really important to feel into that whole identity and not just the fun, squishy parts.
Yeah. I like how one of our dear friends basically said, Natalie Ledwell, how she says she goes out in her convertible, and she gets out in her convertible and she just lets the wind blow in her face, and she's just going, yes, oh, this is so wonderful. I love this feeling.
I can still see her doing that too.
Because that's her personality, but she takes that personality, that identity, like you're talking about, to like 10 levels above, and she's tuning that, reticular activating system. She's tuning it in and fine tuning it and getting that channel that she's turning up the dial on to a clear station, so that what she's putting out from within herself, the universe, which we call the quantum field, is just bringing back into her experience that mirror of herself, that manifestation of who she is being from. And girlfriend, with everything you've been sharing about your program as a dream design coach and just the levels that you take people to, wow, sounds really powerful.
I know what's going to happen when we team up and we take them there together.
Yeah. Well, the field of possibility is infinite. But you know what I love, and it just reminded me of what you and I are to each other. Really what that is we are partners in belief. And we are accountability partners. So, just like when we're human, we might have those moments where we've just had a tiring day and we felt we've been pulled in all these different areas. And you're going to come in and you're going to say, hey, Cher, you know the way this works.
And I have, and you have, we both have. Like, hold on a second. Don't freak out about that.
And that's one of the things that I love the most about what you're doing, sweetheart. So tell our audience, ways that they can get a hold of you, ways they can get involved in you, with you. And what's your latest program that you're offering?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So you can find me at gratitudeandglamour.com. Like so many people, my website is under construction, but I swear it's going to be done soon. You can find me in my Facebook group, which is Dream Building Entrepreneurs. You can find that at gratitudeandglamour.com/unstoppable. For programs, I have a program starting on Sunday. It's called the Dream Design Accelerator. The cart has closed for that, but if you absolutely feel like, oh my gosh, AmyLee, I need to be in there, I need to get in there. It's a 6-week program where we talk about how to assess what you really want, align with that identity, and then affirm it and create it. So if you absolutely need to get in there, you're going to need to PM me ASAP. And then the other program that I have starting right now, of course, I always have private coaching by appointment. I will warn you, I am very picky about my private clients. It has to be a soul alignment. So if I don't choose to work with you, don't ever take that personally. You have to really make sure when you do this work that there's an alignment there. And then my last program that I just opened the cart for today is called Sensitive and Successful, where I'm going to help people figure out how to use a social media community, be it Facebook, Instagram, now Clubhouse, to create a community of super fans who know, like, and trust and buy from you without feeling icky or doing any icky sales. As Joe will be like, it's not icky sales. So yeah. And then if you want to get in on that, just use the code High Vibe Nation and you'll get a special little Sherry discount.
Yay. Awesome. Can't wait. Absolutely. And for those of you who are watching with us, AmyLee and I are very good friends, and we're in the middle of creating some really amazing collaborations together. So definitely keep your eye out for that. And I want to thank all of you, as always, for being here with us this hour on High Vibe Nation. Your support, your amazing contributions to questions, and the beautiful things you say are always well received. And I want to thank you so much for that. And you can find High Vibe Nation on the web at www.thehighvibenation.com. And you can find us on Instagram at The High Vibe Nation. And then you can find us on Facebook at The High Vibe Nation. I want to thank you, as always, for being with us here this week. And my show is on every Wednesday evenings at 5:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I have to remember to say that because we don't change time. So once again, thank you so much for being here with us today with myself and AmyLee Westervelt. And until next week, please create an amazing rest of the week. Bye now.
From everybody here at the High Vibe Nation, we want to say thank you for choosing to raise your vibration. And of course, please like, share, and subscribe. If you need to find us on the web, check us out at www.thehighvibenation.com.